Great. Well, as with everything with Congress, it sounds simple and full of bulletproof logic, and I'm very optimistic.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let Me Ask You This. My name is Matt Roberts. I'm the California Association of Realtors Federal and Local Government Affairs Director. And joining me, as always, is my colleague, Mike Falk, C.A.R's Public Policy Economist. And Mike, this week we want to talk about the SALT cap.
Yeah.
Put simply, the SALT cap sucks. Now tell me why.
Yeah. So, so the salt cap, why does it suck? I mean, in 2017, it was capped at 10,000.
Right.
And historically, from what you've told me, the cap before 2017, just there was no cap. It didn't exist.
Correct.
And, you know, put simply, in a state like California, there are a lot of taxes, and you are going to be paying income taxes. You're going to be paying property taxes, vehicle license fees, parcel fees, special assessments. I mean, it's a long list, and it's going to add up. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to add up to a lot more than $10,000. And when we talk about housing, especially through the lens of new homeowners, that's really where it gets really dicey.
Well, so you talked about or you mentioned property taxes. So let's
Mhm.
focus on that for a second. Because a lot of people think here in California, hey, we got Prop 13, so property taxes are low.
Mhm.
But let's take a moment, walk us through why, even with Prop 13 and limiting how much property taxes can go up every year, for new home buyers, the SALT cap really kind of becomes an affordability issue with
Right.
property taxes. Walk us through it.
Yeah. So the key with Prop 13 and the property taxes is that assessed value of the home. So when you buy the home, you get an assessed value, and your property tax is 1% of that. In
Okay.
California, it's always going to be a little bit higher than 1% because you're going to add bonds and different kind of, localized community measures on top of that 1%. So really, you're looking at about 1.25. And if you were to buy a medium priced home in California and you're spending more than $870,000 on that house, and you got a 1.25 property tax bill, I mean, like
You're
I'm
already
not,
over.
yeah, are you? I'm not great at mental math, but if you're not over, you are like only a couple of dollars under.
I'm pretty
And
sure. I'm pretty sure you're already over with just
yeah, I
property
believe you.
taxes.
But that kind of goes to your point about the cap and why it's not great policy, which is how I think you phrased it, is that it's just insufficient, and we haven't even talked about income taxes yet. And if
Yeah.
you're, yeah, go ahead.
Well, you had the pleasure of combing through past tax returns,
Yeah.
and when you looked at California tax returns,
Mhm.
what did you how much are Californians paying in tax?
Yeah, so the most recent data we have from the IRS is 2022.
Okay.
And, when we're going to get 2023 with all the cuts in the IRS, maybe in 5, 10 years. But in 2022, the average California filer paid about $37,000 in SALT.
Okay. But so they paid 37,000, but they
Mhm.
could only deduct 10,000.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So for simplicity purposes, there
Mhm.
was about $28,000 uh, that they could not deduct.
That's right.
And if someone's in, say, a 25% federal tax bracket, how much money are they losing out on by not being able to deduct that extra 28,000?
Yeah, it's over $500 a month.
Okay, so you think about you think about people trying to get into homes, $500 a month, that can make the difference between being able to afford a home or not afford a home, pay for insurance, pay for utilities. And you go through this process and suddenly you see the SALT really becomes an affordability issue in a lot of areas here in California, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when you're sitting down, maybe you're buying the house by yourself or with a partner, and you sit down with Excel and you're budgeting, which is, a great thing for any relationship. You really see how
If you can
strong it is.
if you
Yeah,
can survive that.
if you could survive that. But to your point, I mean, in California, we have rising insurance costs, we have high home prices, we have high mortgage rates right now. And when you're missing out on the potential savings of $500 a month, like you mentioned, and you add that, I mean, it just puts all these things kind of work in a way to make home ownership that much harder to achieve.
All right. So, Mike, one of the ideas that's being thrown around in DC is limiting who can use the SALT deduction or maybe the higher SALT cap by income.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a number of different dollar amounts being thrown around, perhaps 400,000, perhaps 500,000. But let me ask you, in a state like California, does that impact us the same as other states?
No, I mean, even within California, you're going to have geographic concentrations where folks are getting hit especially hard by those income limits. And those are generally the most populated areas of the state. I'm thinking the Bay Area, places in LA and Orange County. I'm not trying to diminish how much money that is, but with the cost of living in those areas, it doesn't go as far as it perhaps would in other parts of the country. And if those income limits were introduced, it would hurt those places disproportionately.
So it would impact California more than a number of other states.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Matt, what's coming up next with the salt cap and in the reconciliation package? What should we look for?
Yeah, so the next 2 weeks are going to be very telling. The Ways and Means Committee, the tax writing body of the House of Representatives, is hoping to put pen to paper either next week or the week after and try and get their section of reconciliation marked up out of committee. They're meeting ongoing with everyone interested in tax provisions. So that's pretty much every possible business across the country,
Yeah.
including the SALT caucus. And luckily, California has incredible members on the SALT caucus on both sides of the aisle. And right now, we've got a great champion in California Congresswoman Young Kim, who's really trying to get as high of a SALT cap as possible. Once it comes out of committee, we'll see if they can put everything together and get it across the House of Representatives floor and onto the Senate for consideration.
Great. Well, as with everything with Congress, it sounds simple and full of bulletproof logic, and I'm very optimistic.
They've got the world's greatest sausage makers out there in DC.
They really do, though. They really do. Yeah.
And on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for listening to us talk about state and local tax deductions. Again, here in California, we can laugh about it, we can mock it, but the reality is it's real money to real families and has a real impact here in California.
Absolutely.
So thank you, and we'll see you next time. And Deanne, don't mess up the editing of this. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.